St. John's Episcopal School Attendance Between Virtual and Present Students by Destiny Drywee. My school is a small private school that is not data-driven. When a student is not performing as expected, we look at the whole child and try to figure out why. We make a plan in collaboration with the parents and put the resources available in place to help that individual student to be successful. We believe that each child is unique and we foster their strengths to build up their weaknesses. We start our 2020-2021 academic school year on September 8th. Last school year, on-campus learning ended abruptly on March 12th, and the typical standardized test we have been giving for 25 plus years was not administered for the first time. For the purpose of this assignment, I will be looking at the only data collected last school year, which was daily attendance. I will focus on specifically our 8th grade class because we saw the largest discrepancy between their unexcused absences pre-COVID versus post-COVID. My 3D team would consist of our two administrative heads of upper school, Elizabeth Montminy and Joe Persinger. Ms. Montminy also teaches upper school social studies, and it is her data I am using. Mr. Persinger teaches upper school math and Latin. He is also the dean of students and handles discipline issues, which would include unexcused absences and tardies. I also included our upper school English teacher, Phil Buckingham, who also taught all of the 8th grade. Last, for a diversity perspective based on grades taught and cultural differences, I asked our Spanish teacher, Antonio de la Peña, and our art teacher, Maggie Lewis. I did not ask parents or students to be a part of this 3D team because we are a small school where everyone knows each other. Specific student data would be shared, and that would be a breach of privacy. However, I do think a survey would help our team to gather information from the students and parent perspective. Our school is opening for in-person learning on September 8th. We have a virtual option for those families who do not feel comfortable returning to school. Our team's goal is to improve student attendance for our virtual students. To create a team culture, we all must be on the same page. We need to use the same terminology and understand the data we are looking at. Chris O'Neill writes about how getting to the root cause and areas of concern without finger pointing so everyone feels safe to share and contribute. We are all in this together attitude can help us focus on the task at hand, which ultimately will help our students be more successful. The data we are looking at is for the 8th grade during the school year of 2019 to 2020. They had the largest discrepancy of absences in the school. They are also the largest class at St. John's, so more data could be collected. 8th grade is also the last year at our school as students graduate and move on to high school. Due to absences and poor grades, there were some conversations with administration and teachers about some students not graduating. In the article, Tracking Student Attendance Under Remote Learning is a Complicated Mess by Blackwell and Fox addresses this concern in Education Week. They describe how some school systems converted to pass-fail or would not let students' grades get worse than they were prior to the school's closing due to coronavirus. We had 25 students in our 8th grade class last year. 12 were girls and 13 were boys. So it was a pretty even split. Only one student in the class received resource as a service. The rest of the students would have been completely mainstreamed in our regular academic program. Of the 25 students, the majority of them come from a diverse background. This includes being a person of color or biracial, or first-generation Americans with parents who have immigrated to the United States. 9 out of the 25 are considered Caucasian and white. When looking at the data pre-COVID, the 8th grade class had several absences that were excused. Some were due to illness, but most I found were due to students doing a shadow day at a local high school that they were applying to. In February, there was an influx of excused absences due to an Oasis field trip where several 8th graders performed in Disney World and missed a couple of days of school. There were very few unexcused absences, with a total of only 4 over the course of several months. Post-COVID, when looking at data, students seemed to initially take distance learning seriously as there were no absences at all in the month of March. However, after spring break in April, there was a downward trend of absences. Several students were given an excused absence for technical difficulties. By the month of May, students weren't giving any reason for missing class, and so they were marked as unexcused. Initially, I thought more boys would have unexcused absences due to losing track of time when playing video games. However, the data showed girls were just as likely to have unexcused absences. The data was parallel to the amount of boys versus girls in the class. When looking at diversity, more students with diverse backgrounds were likely to have an unexcused absence than Caucasians. This could be due to the fact that a majority of students in the class came from a diverse background. Unexcused absences increased by almost 3 times as many during distance learning. The closer school was to being over, the more unexcused absences occurred in 8th grade. Before the school closed due to COVID-19, all students were driven to school in personal vehicles. There is no school bus service, and no students walk to and from our school. If a student does not attend school that day, the parents know and almost always notify the school by calling the front office or sending the homeroom teacher an email. Students attend all classes throughout the day because they never leave the building unless a parent or guardian signs them out. After school closed, parents of 8th graders might have assumed their child was in class at home and did not follow up with them as they are almost in high school and more responsible. Parents did not need to micromanage or help their 8th grader like they would a younger sibling. There were weaknesses in my data. Attendance is taken first period, and sometimes a child slips into the school after that time but is not caught by the front office. This might mark a child absent when really they were tardy. Also, students sometimes get taken out of school early for a doctor's appointment, or maybe they don't feel well, which might make them miss a few classes but have attended others. The program we use to track attendance defaults to excused. A teacher needs to manually override an unexcused absence, and they might just assume that the student is excused without knowing why they were absent, since some parents call the front office and do not let the teacher know who is taking attendance. Last, my data for post-COVID is only based on one teacher's attendance records. Other teachers did not keep records every day, or they did not teach the whole entire 8th grade. For example, students can choose to take Latin or Spanish. They are also separated in math based on their ability. Some 8th graders take algebra, while others are in geometry. Our strengths are that we do take daily attendance. Also, the data I collected from our upper school social studies teacher had good detail about each student who missed her class and why. I also discovered that a lot of the time it was repeat offenders, meaning the same child missed class repeatedly. When students are at school, they are stuck there. They are physically unable to leave easily or do something else. During distance learning, they had to switch their frame of mind between school and home multiple times a day. They lost track of time and got distracted by other things, which made them miss virtual meetings. 8th graders are also older and don't need a lot of hand holding from their parents academically. They may have taken advantage of some of their newfound freedom by that before was dictated by a bell. Since the 8th graders were a few months away from being high schoolers, teachers might have been trying to get them to take ownership of their own learning and not have communicated as much to their parents when class was missed and instead have gone directly to the student via email. All of these whittled down to the root causes. Collecting data in a virtual learning world will look different than in the past. Many schools are not looking for student attendance at a meeting, but are they completing the work assigned? They are also passing off student attendance responsibilities onto the teacher. The more engaging our lessons are, the more likely we will have students show up to learn. If students are not showing up to class meetings or completing assignments, reaching out to the parents by a phone call or email is a must. Working together with the parents will help the child succeed.